Osoyoos Town Council, Monday, October the 1st, 2012, at 2:00 p.m. in Council Chambers. The first item of business would be the adoption of some minutes from previous meetings, Committee of the Whole minutes from September the 17th, and regular open meetings from September the 17th. Okay, Councillor McCordoff.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Wells. The Committee of the Whole minutes of September the 17th have, when it lists the councillors present, my name is not there, and I was there because you can see further down the list that I've made motions. I wondered if that could be added. Thank you.
Thank you. We will add that. So looking at the Committee of the Whole from September 17th as amended, we can do this by consensus.
I have another amendment.
Oh, we have another one. Okay,
Yes.
Councillor Ryan then.
Yes, thanks, Mr. Mayor. Yes, on that same meeting, the report on the comments by Mr. Gates, the last little hyphen there, it says that I said that 92nd was looked at earlier as a bypass. I think I said that Spartan and 92nd was looked at by the Ministry of Transportation, and I didn't want to give the impression that Council had looked at that, but I was aware that Ministry of Transportation had proposed that at one time. So I just felt that putting them in was clarifying it.
Rather than Council?
Well, it doesn't say Council, it
Right.
assumes Council.
Okay, that's great. No, that's absolutely brilliant. It was certainly Ministry of Transportation. So having heard those two changes, I'll entertain a resolution to adopt the minutes as amended. Major changes there. Roads, Plante, any further discussion? All in favor, opposed, carried. And then the regular open minutes from September 17th will be adopted by consensus. No business arising, no introduction of late items. However, there is an agenda change. Under the delegations, we are going to flop Delegation 1 and Delegation 2. That's been a request made there, so I obviously need a resolution to adopt the agenda as amended on that. Councillor Rhodes Plante again, all in favor, opposed, carried. So getting to the delegations, we will go with delegation number 2, Economic Development Advisory Committee, Relocation Strategy and Recommendations from Holly Plante and Len McLean, who are members of the Economic Development Advisory Committee. Come forward, please.
Mr. Mayor and Council, thank you very much for seeing us today. Holly Plante and I are both members of the EDAC committee, which is the Economic Development Advisory Committee, and we are here today to run through our proposal for relocation. And since Holly has kind of spearheaded this plan, I'm going to let her run us through it.
Great. Thank you again to everyone, Mayor and Council, for seeing us today. And I just also want to point out, too, that we do have Ingrid Jarrett from Watermark Beach Resort in attendance today, too, to show her support of our recommendation, which we'll be walking through. So we have put together a PowerPoint slideshow for you to take a look at. And so basically what we'll be doing is be going through that plan and presenting to you our recommendations for a resolution for today. So let's start. Is there a way we can load up the PowerPoint? Okay, that's all right. Great, so we'll go to that first slide. So the next one, please. All right, so we will start with our role of EDAC today to propose a series of recommendations in the form of a marketing strategy to the Town of Osoyoos Council to ensure that Osoyoos is well positioned for economic opportunities such as the correctional facility and others in the future. Now, just a bit of background on that. Our EDAC, we were tasked with looking at a strategy for relocations because we have so many different people in the area right now with the announcement coming up for the correctional facility. We have a lot of HR people, recruitment officers in our area looking to position Osoyoos as, you know, a great place to buy property for these type of employees, whether they're short-term or long-term, as well as construction-based sorry, we've got, yeah, our audiences to target. So we've got our construction workers, permanent employees, and that's okay. We've got it broken down as our immediate audiences to target, being the correctional facility construction workers, permanent employees, also the construction company awarded the correctional facility contract. So we have put a future target to include potentially software companies, import-export companies, business owners looking to set up satellite offices with flexibility to live anywhere. But because of the nature of timing right now, we feel like it is an opportunity that we don't want to pass our community by, as these type of individuals with Corrections Canada and also with construction company are doing their research, they're planning ahead, they're online, you know, when they're in our area, they're looking for something that they can bring home to their families and to other employees. So we've done a SWOT analysis of our strengths. We want to be able to really position Osoyoos as the best place for work, life, when people come to our area. We are competing with Penticton. We're competing with Oliver. We believe that in Osoyoos we have a lot to offer to people, to residents looking at coming to the area. We, as Osoyoos, we have an exceptional brand. We believe that Generation X and Y are more likely to relocate to areas where they can live first and work second, making Osoyoos an extremely desirable place to relocate based on that lifestyle. We have vacancies to accommodate long-term and short-term employees. We have the lake. We have a hospital within 20 minutes, which is also an effective walk-in clinic. We have the elementary and high school, excellent programs at the Sonora Center, hockey, dance oasis, Vengeance, fitness, breathe. So we believe we have that balance of lifestyle for whether it's a construction company employee that has, you know, sort of not a family, but is an active lifestyle versus some of the others that may be coming with a family. So we believe we have that offering. And we also have a wide range of wineries and restaurants at close proximity. And one of the biggest things, too, we thought was a strength is that the Osoyoos Indian Band and so many other local businesses and stakeholders are supportive of this strategy. And you can see again today we've got Ingrid from Watermark really in supporting what we're trying to put forward today. So that's some of our strengths. Some of our weaknesses we believe in. Sometimes, you know, the municipality red tape can slow the process. So we just don't want that to happen. We don't want the opportunity to pass us by. Another weakness, I mean, you could say, is we are 30 minutes away from the correctional facility, which means we're competing against Penticton for that exact same distance, you know, with some major resources there. So, again, that's something worth looking at. We also see that economic development has been in kind of a hibernation stage in a while, and there's been kind of a change in hands from the Chamber to Destination Osoyoos and the town of Osoyoos. And so we just, our EDAC, we really just see it as an opportunity for us to kind of help lead the way with this strategy and, you know, make some really good things happen for our community. So opportunities, we believe we can put together a comprehensive list of assets to market in Osoyoos, such as commercial properties, residential, hospitals, schools, fitness. We really want to encourage everyone to become ambassadors in our area, that we are Canada's warmest welcome, and that extends, you know, to being open for business. And, you know, that means local businesses and municipal government to really become those ambassadors. We also want to create a long-term relocation strategy to attract numerous residents and businesses to Osoyoos, because we believe that's the part of a healthy cycle for our schools, you know, for our tax base, for basically everything for economic sustainability. We know we need to get younger families in here and businesses. We also see the opportunity to build relationships with the correctional facility, construction companies, and other business owners to really consider Osoyoos and position us at top of mind awareness for relocating. And also a great opportunity is to invite the collaboration of the Osoyoos Indian Band, because again, they have a lot of the connections with correctional facility, and they have, you know, really shared and expressed interest that they would really love to see people locate to Osoyoos. So we also saw an opportunity to facilitate a how to bid session for local businesses as well as part of our EDAC, to be able to just share updates on what's happening. And there are a lot of local businesses that could really benefit from the correctional facility. So just to walk through some how-tos on that. So the threats would be the correctional facility not happening. And the other threat, of course, is Penticton attracting the majority of new residents and employees, and, you know, us losing out on that. The current reality is that these recruitment officers, I've met them, they've come through our area and they're looking online and they're hungry for information. So that's a current reality. They're, of course, doing a lot of that research online, but they are visiting our area as well. So we feel like right now, as it is, we are missing out on those opportunities. With the announcement coming right away, we feel like currently the Town of Osoyoos website is outdated and it doesn't have enough representation for these audiences for economic development. So our objectives for today is we want to attract residents and businesses looking to relocate to the South Okanagan. We want to create and launch a relocations package by the fall of this year to attract the primary audiences we've mentioned, being construction workers, long-term staff for the correctional facility, and then later explore secondary audiences that we can really build off of what we've started. We want to ensure that this relocation package is available in hard copy and electronic format, so it can be easily implemented on the Town of Osoyoos website, which would help facilitate where some of that content's missing. This would really give people something to, you know, get the information in an easy manner. Also, to launch an open for business training program for local businesses and the Town of Osoyoos staff. So again, we are really embracing our Canada's Warmest Welcome brand from the inside out, really setting that example. And also to ensure that this process is expedited in a timely fashion to ensure that the economic opportunities don't pass us by. So our overview on what we're recommending for this marketing mix is for hard copy. We have the folders, the beautiful Osoyoos Canada's Warmest Welcome folders, which are already done. We have the visitor's guides. I'm told that Joe Knight is doing another run of them, and we would have access to 100 to 200 copies. And then we do have right now, there's an Osoyoos Okanagan Falls and Oliver relocation guide that has already been printed that we could use for this year. So we recognize that with the current relocation guide, there is some information specific to Osoyoos that isn't there, and that's why we've outlined the need to do inserts that are really customized and targeting our audience with the information that is missing. So basically taking that hard copy package, being able to make it available online in electronic format. So as we go through and walk you through the quotes that we have received, you will see that that conversion has been included in our quotes. And then Operation Relocation, which we see as an opportunity to then be able to invite the recruitment officers, invite the construction company, HR personalities that are awarded the contract, so they can do a familiarization tour in our area. We've got a lot of support from local stakeholders to implement something of that nature, so we can really showcase what we have to offer here in Osoyoos. So it's kind of a three-part process there. And then I'll get into specifics on each of those. So Joe Knight, we have, before Mr. Newman had contacted Joe and requested folders for this project, last week I also met with Joe and gave her an overview of quantities, and she felt like she'd be able to give us these folders to support, 100 to 200, and those folders are printed. So it has a large gusset, so it would be very supportive, these folders of tucking in, you know, as we mentioned, the relocation guide, the visitor's guide, so it'd be nice and professional looking. And of course, it really does a great job showing off our brand, our Osoyoos Canada's Warmest Welcome brand. So next slide. We are so fortunate that I believe we have one of the best visitors guides in BC. It does an excellent job selling the incredible lifestyle we have here, and we believe this would be a key element to also have in this package to build up the case of why we have one of the best lifestyles in Canada right here in Osoyoos. So again, Joe Knight is needing to do a reprint to get through the rest of the year until next year's guides are out, so we would have access to those guides as well for our package. Next. Unfortunately, again, the relocation guide was done before any of this process was initiated. So we do have it's kind of a shared guide with Oliver, Osoyoos, and Okanagan Falls. In a sense, it's valuable because we do, lean on Oliver for the hospital and whatnot. So there are partnerships there. However, as I'd mentioned, and we'll get into it on the next slide, there is some information specific to Osoyoos that isn't there. So we believe that the next time we do the relocation guide, instead of being a shared scenario between the three communities, that we can work on doing a specific relocation guide to Osoyoos. However, in the interest of time and budget to start, we believe we can get by with what we have with the current relocation guide, and then simply just do inserts, 3 or 4, double-sided, focusing on key areas like transportation, accommodations, real estate, to fill in some of the gaps that are missing in the relocation guide. So we've got a couple quotes that we went out and got. We really tried to approach different suppliers that we felt understood our brand and our vision and where we were going. So the first packaged quote that we have would be working with a company called Niche Media, who actually did do our visitor's guide. They did a great job. They understand our market. They understand our stakeholders. So they have quoted on what it would cost for them to do the inserts for us. That would be creating the content for them. That would be designing them. And that would be doing all of the coordination. So their cost quoted is $3,500, and again, we would get the conversion from the hard copy, which would be delivered to Kickstart Printing, and then we would also get the electronic version, which could be presented to Donna and the team at the Town of Osoyoos to go through the content and to implement it on the current Town of Osoyoos site. So Kickstart Printing, you could see before, has been included on the previous slide as being the recommended supplier for that option. And they also have given us a quote that includes for them the cost of assembling the packages as well too. So we know, because Kickstart's a local supplier, we could drop off the Canada's Warmest Welcome folders, we can drop off the relocation guides, we can basically give it to them to print the inserts and to assemble the packages for us as well, which, as you know, EDAC, we're a group of volunteers, so to put together 200 packages would take a considerable amount of time, but we really felt it was a great option to have Kickstart do the printing of the inserts and then assembling the packages. So that's our first quote that you will see. So again, that's Niche Media and Kickstart in with that. The second quote is Express Design, and so they've quoted on, again, doing the writing, the editorial, the design to make this package press ready. So their quote came in a little bit higher, and the difference as well too is they didn't offer the option of package assembly in with their quote. So although our recommendation is to proceed with the first quote because it gives us everything that we need and the budget is also less. So we saw that as a win-win, and it involves supporting local suppliers as well. So those are the two quotes that we have presented, and again, we feel that it will be key that the Town of Osoyoos staff are briefed on this content and these packages, because even if we put these packages together, if then people are acting on them, we just want to make sure that when they are calling and inquiring, that then it works hand in hand with the support that they're getting. So we would recommend that as well. The Operation Relocation we're really excited about. We thought we could host a series of events, starting with an event, again, geared to human resources managers of the correctional facility and construction company awarded the contract. We could do a meet and greet with local mayor, council, and EDAC, a familiarization tour of Osoyoos and our assets, and we could also do a follow-up event as well too. So we feel like that would be the relationship building side of it, that they have our package, they have our information, and then they get, a personal tour of our area. So then it makes it easier for them to go back to their team and to position Osoyoos as a great place. And we saw it as a win-win, because we would hope that Corrections Canada would want to attract long-term staff too, and we believe in doing that. The lifestyle in Osoyoos is supportive of a place where people would want to stay. So we really think that that kind of gives them an asset to be able to go back to their team and say, we've got this new job opportunity, and as part of it, we've got this amazing place where you can relocate to. So it helps them also sell, the direction of the new correctional facility as well. So alliance building is a key part. We do recommend, if there's not an economic development officer to take on the role, to reach out. Perhaps there is somebody that could be an ambassador for the town of Osoyoos that could, you know, support in conjunction with EDAC to build those relationships. And then there's, you know, we just thought it'd be easier to have a main point of contact designated from the team here that you know, EDAC can work with, and we know that these people interested in relocating can work with as well. We also have, again, with the website, that all of the content created would be provided to the town of Osoyoos to upload. We would be, you know, given ahead of time, so there's time to review in a timely fashion. And again, there's no cost for this conversion, and we believe it's a win-win because it fills the gap of information right now that's missing off the town of Osoyoos site. And then later, recommendation, we believe that once we build this plan into a larger plan to target other markets, we see the opportunity down the road of doing things like search engine marketing, where we can direct people to the site, and that really when people are searching in keywords on search engines like relocating to the Okanagan, relocating to Canada, that we're well optimized and we are, you know, at the top of the list for those searches. So that's something to consider for down the road. Another down the road is social media. We recognize that it's such a great tool. Penticton's currently doing a great job of using it to attract people to the area and for economic development. We believe, again, this could be a great tool to work in conjunction down the road with this strategy. So the open for business model, we stress again to launch an event where we can really train and walk local businesses, and even the town of Osoyoos office, just so everybody's embracing that brand. So to us, that really means being positive, friendly, helpful, and solution focused. And again, to recap, we go through the budget summary. So we've got a total budget of $5,999 for the option that we are recommending. And so that's, again, everything all included for the hard copy package and then the conversion to online. And then just to do the comparative budget on the next slide. The comparative was in there earlier. What we did was we just went through with what we'd recommended as the option we would say, so you could see all in what we'd be looking at for the budget based on what we've recommended. And the other quote was about $300 more than that, just to compare apples to apples there. So here's a timeline. Of course, our goal is to be able to get approval for our recommendations today, and we thought that that would give us an obtainable timeline to start working with the supplier awarded and be able to have these packages ready to go for the end of November, which Joe Knight thought would work well with the packages, with the folders and the guides as well. So we came up with a timeline so you can see roughly how that would look. And then again, our resolution, that it is our hope today that Mayor and Council will accept our recommendation to create the relocation package and approve the budget provided, so we don't miss out on any economic development opportunities for the town of Osoyoos relating to the correctional facility. And we see this relocation package as the start of many successful projects to attract and retain more businesses in Osoyoos. And EDAC, we look forward to, you know, this being the first of many wins that we can do for our community.
Great. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. McLean, Ms. Plante. We've heard that the ECDEV group is raring to go. I guess we just saw how raring to go you are. When you're in your presentation, you talked about one of the threats, and perhaps that threat was the correctional center not going ahead. When we were in Victoria recently for the UBCM, and all of Town Council met with Premier Christy Clark, that was one of the questions that was posed, is because we'd heard that it was going to get through Treasury Board in September, October, so we did pose that question, when are we going to hear about the correctional center? And she said it will happen. Oh. So as to a time frame, that wasn't, we couldn't nail her down that specifically, but she did say they're all aware of it, it's going through the process, and it will happen. So
good. Well, that's great news.
If we can just keep that positive note, then that'll be good. So I'd like to ask some questions of council, and I'm going to need some direction from Mr. Zackel. This is while I think it's going to fit within our business format of how we do things, I'm just not sure of that yet. So let me go over and ask council questions first. So, Councillor Rhodes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, just to reiterate, thanks very much. Great presentation. It kind of solidified and brought together a lot of the things that have been floating around. And I would like you to know right off the bat that I'm very supportive of this relocation guide, and I understand that it's somewhat shared with the other two communities, and that always brings a lot of anxiety to councillors in town when it's not just you and you have to share it. But I can get past that, and I know a lot of it was balanced on the prison part of it, but I still, at the end of the day, with those factors being in there, and there will always be uncertainty about everything, I've always felt that Osoyoos really does need a relocation guide, even if you factor those things out of there, because you know, there are people from all over the place that look at packages like that, and you know, something like that could draw them into the community, even if the prison and sharing it would not factor. So I've always felt so. Yeah, I'm pretty keen on it, and so I know Mayor Wells wants us to kind of clarify the budget part of it. I don't have a clue how to do that. We're going to have to rely on Mr. Zackel, but I wanted to ask her about the two components of it. So there was the first one for the guide only, and then the other part was for correlating, putting it together, and that kind of thing, for a total of $6,000 or $59.99. Am I hearing that right?
You're correct. Yeah, you're correct. The two quotes we got, one included the cost of assembly and one didn't, because one of the suppliers offered it and the other didn't. So the recommended budget we have is the $5,999, and that's all inclusive of creating the package itself and then putting it together.
Are they able to stand alone?
What do you mean by that? Like the
Could we go with the relocation budget part of it and leave the other one out for future, just as a...
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Like we wanted to put together the package to start so it's ready to go and we don't miss out on the opportunity, but also in the notes we had, our recommendation moving forward would be to take some time, you know, do whether it's an economic development plan, but look at our other audiences, and then down the road redevelop our relocation package so it is specific to Osoyoos. So as of right now, we believe the inserts give a solution to right now what, I don't want to say locked into using, but what the resource that we do have is shared between the three communities. And in the interest of time, we believe it will serve our purposes, and complemented with the inserts will do the job of what we need to do.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, thank you. Mr. McLean?
I also just wanted to clarify that the $6,000 budget included, I believe, the $2,000 for the FAM tour.
Right.
So not including the FAM tour, it would be $39.99 for the relocation guides, including putting them together.
The question I was asking is if we could separate them and not have, you know, a negative impact in either one. I'm kind of looking at them as two different things. Have to be continuously reminded about talking into the mics.
Absolutely, and we separated in the budget those items as well. Of course, it is our recommendation to do the familiarization, because we believe, like, it's one thing to have the packages for information, but it's another to kind of do the relationship building and go that extra mile to really, you know, wow people to our community too.
What was the time frame of the familiarization tour again?
Well, we believe we could launch these packages by the end of November, and with the announcement, we believe it would take some time, again, to contact these individuals and to be able to, I know when I talked to the recruitment officer from Corrections Canada, he was looking at coming back in the spring, and so I think a lot of them are, you know, waiting for the announcement, and then we're going to wait for the spring to be coming back, but he did say that he had a team of employees that were looking at coming back and looking at property in the spring of next year.
Okay, and I believe there was some budgeted money in economic development, so we'll find out from Mr. Zackel on that. And I'm certainly hoping that this moves forward, that we find a way to get this rolling, because I really think it's important that the advisory committee get a bit of a bit in their teeth, so they've got something to chomp on and to run with. So, Councillor McCordoff, please.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Wells. Thank you very much. That was an excellent presentation. Can I ask the hard copy that I think you were making 200 copies of it? Am I correct in that? Do you see that being? Am I not getting it here? Okay. Do you see that being offered at town hall, in hotels, at conferences, or mailed out to people that ask for it? How are you going to give those out?
I think we could do it part and parcel. We could keep some on hand so that they're ready to mail out for people interested. But if we're able to, again, work with the local stakeholders, a few of their, real estate brokerages, and be able to say, here's 10 copies to keep on hand for people that do come and you feel are serious about relocating. So,
okay.
Yeah.
And my other question is, it's $6,000 all of a sudden seems like, I mean, it's you have to think about that, don't you? And I totally agree why you've got that in there. I'm thinking that the FAM tour might be something that would be postponed until this has to go through the provincial budget, and it could be some time before this has actually been finalized. And I'm thinking it might be better to have the FAM tour at that time, or 6 months from now or something. So I can see the other information being ready to go up very soon. So thank you.
I guess, Mr. Zackel, before we get too far down the road here, could you enlighten us into this? This isn't our normal process, but again, there are circumstances that are sort of taking us down this road. So, Mr. Zackel, please.
Thank you, Mayor Wells. Well, the EDAC committee is a committee of council. The recommendations, by bringing them forward to council, it is council's wishes if they wish to proceed with anything or not. Okay. From a financial standpoint, there is money available in the community development budget to cover these. If you're talking about the FAM portion of that 2000, if it's not going to be taking place until the spring of 2013, that would be a budget discussion item for 2013.
Okay, great. So we would have some, although it may be recognized in principle, maybe the dollars would be dragging along into our next budget process, which would allow us to move ahead with the $4,000 expenditure. Council. Councillor Plante, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Again, thank you for the presentation. One of the big things I always like to talk about, especially when we talk about this corrections, is the possibility of jobs there of 250 odd jobs that they talk about. And that's what I look at with this relocation, is that I see, even if we get 10%, if we get 24 families that come to move this area, it changes the dynamics of this area. It brings a real boost to our community. So I'm totally in favor of this. And again, thanks for the presentation.
And of course, we want the people coming here. We want the ones with children.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Looking for. I'm willing to take a resolution on at this part of the meeting here on the presentation. If someone, Councillor Ryan.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, I would be prepared to put a motion that we accept the recommended quotations from Niche Marketing and Kickstart for producing the relocation guide.
Great. Thank you so much.
Okay. Councillor Rhodes, as the seconder on that. Any further dialogue on that? So we would, and we should have the dollar sign. So we would be at the $4,000 now. That's going to get everything that you were immediately looking for. Right. We understand the FAM tour and we understand the value of it, but let's keep that let's keep it separate for now. We managed to get the 4. Let's stop there.
Great. Thank you.
Councillor Rhodes, did I see a hand?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think I'm going to say exactly the same thing. Don't anticipate anything other than the FAM tour being something to do in the future. Mm-hmm. This is not, we're not stonewalling it or putting it down or anything. When you do lesser amounts that are focused like this, a lot of times they're better accepted by everybody, and certainly when we get to that point, we want to hear about that FAM tour at that point as well. So.
Okay, anything further? Councillor Ryan?
Yes, well, I would just say that I do think that the relocation guide, as was pointed out, whether it's for this purpose or other, I think in general we need it. And having those updates will give us the copy and so on, the graphics for putting together our own, I think, in the next year. So I think it's a good investment.
Thank you.
Okay, no further discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Congratulations. There you go.
Thank you. And we at EDAC are so excited to work with you.
Oh, I'm
on
sure
this.
you are. Thanks a lot, Mr. McLean, Ms. Plante.
Thank you for volunteering to do all of that. That's amazing.
Okay.
Volunteers are lifeblood.
Back to the agenda, looking at delegations, BC Senior Game Society, Mr. Jim Cade. Not exactly what the agenda said, but Mr. Jim Cade. And thank you for your indulgence, Mr. Cade, on that swap there. Some of those people there, they had to run. So.
No, that's fine. Before I start, thank you, Your Worship and Councillors, for allowing me to make this presentation today. As I mentioned, my name is Jim Cade. I'm the Zone 5 Director, which is the Okanagan Similkameen for the BC Senior Game Society. And I'm here actually today representing the provincial Board of Directors and the executive for the BC Senior Game Society. Of course, as a director, I'm on that board. As you know, or many of you may know, the BC Senior Games is open to all citizens of the province, 55 years of age and over. And we are celebrating our 25th year this year. And this is why we're doing some special things to celebrate that 25th year. The BC Senior Games started in 1988 with the first games being held in Vernon. We had 650 participants. Gained 650 participants. We held our 25th games in Burnaby in August. We had just under 4,000 participants. So it's a pretty big deal. And so what we're trying to do is to go around the province and recognize each of the communities that has put on the games for us. And of course, Oliver Osoyoos had the games in 1995, and I've invited Mr. Tony Brummett to be here with me today because he was the chairperson for the Osoyoos section of that games at that time. And just by coincidence, I happened to live in Osoyoos at that time and actually was a volunteer in that particular games. So anyway, the senior games, just a very, very brief outline for anybody interested. We have 30 different activities ranging from things such as cards, crib and bridge and so on, all the way through to very athletic things like slow pitch ball, which I happen to play, and ice hockey, curling, and then dragon boat, which now has become a very, very big deal in the senior games. And we have individual events such as tennis and track and field and so on and so forth. So anyway, it's quite a big venture, and we, from the senior games point of view, it only works when we have communities that put on the games for us. And I know Osoyoos Oliver actually bid for the games for 2014-15, and unfortunately we just don't have the facilities anymore to put them on. The facilities that are needed are things such as indoor pools, 16 tennis courts, things like that, which unfortunately we just don't have. But because I live in Oliver right now, but I represent the whole Okanagan, and I know Penticton is keen to have it. And I think what maybe we have to look at is doing something for the South Okanagan, where somehow or other Osoyoos gets maybe something happening here, Oliver maybe something, and looking at maybe that type of presentation, because unfortunately we are pretty well, in fact I know we've been the smallest of the 25 communities that have had the games. And by the way, people who talk about having been here for our games really enjoy them. And again, I've participated in 10 games myself, and the smaller communities really, it's much, I don't want to say something negative about big places, but it's sort of nice to go to the small communities, just a whole different feeling. So anyway, today we have a special banner that we've developed, and we want to present to each of the cities and towns that have done the games. And so I'm going to ask Mr. Brummett to come up, and we'll unveil this banner that we want to present to you. I don't know if we get posted. I think it posted.
Welcome, Mr. Brummett.
Yeah, it's like this magic.
So is this a street banner, or?
This is a banner. No, well, we'll see in a minute.
Okay.
We are hoping that you will put it up somewhere. I mean, it's up to each community to put it where they want to put it, but I would suggest that maybe in the community center or something like that, so.
Great.
Help me with it?
Oh, wow. Oh,
Very nice.
very nice. Gentlemen, could you walk down here so we can, so the TV camera can get it? Absolutely. Stand right in front of the mayor. No, that's fine. Oh, that's grand. That's very nice. Nice recognition.
Right. So we hope you can put it up somewhere.
We will certainly do that. We'd be proud to do that.
Do you have one for Oliver as well?
Yes.
Oh, good.
Each of the communities, so all of our students and update these.
And I guess, Mr. Cade, while you're rolling, it would really be interesting if we could find a way to get something back. Maybe we should look at the date, and that was 95. 95. Maybe we can get something with a good number. Maybe we should be looking at a couple of sports, maybe 2 sports, and get a small group here, because it really, I know it bothers council that we don't have the facilities and we don't have the amenities to put on the whole show. And we do understand that, but we have a lot of rooms here. It's a part of our business. It's what we do. And if we could have, maybe a major horseshoe pitch or something that we could tie into and have a couple of sports that are a part of the senior games come to Osoyoos, and we'll share it with Oliver, obviously, and bring that spirit of the 2 communities back again. I think it would just be wonderful to be able to do 1 component or 2 or 3, or you folks would know better than us what to attack, but I think it would be a great boost.
Well, I'm just sorry to hear that some of the events have gotten so big that the smaller communities can't use them. And I know we were told in 1995 that we couldn't do it. And so we assessed the facilities that we did have, and we put on one of the better games in over a long time. So, and the community benefited from it. I know each community got one of those aluminum bleachers, the portable bleachers.
Right.
Each one of the senior centers ended up with a computer, so we got things started there, and we had a great time. And I guess we were one of the few communities that had the Lieutenant Governor of British Columbia come for the opening.
Oh, great.
That was because I had an inside track. But it worked. Anyway, thank you very much.
Okay, thanks, Mr. Brummett.
Just one last comment. The bids, by the way, for anybody in the audience who's interested in participating, as I said, it's open for anybody 55 years and over. And if you can always go to the BC Senior Games, and by the way, it's Seniors Games website, and all the information is there, or contact me. I live in Oliver. And as you say, I really would like to see it as a South Okanagan thing. So unfortunately, as we just mentioned, we don't have the facilities to do the whole thing, but if we could do some components of them, and I think it would work really well. So the bids for like the 2013 games will be held in Kamloops, The 2014 are going to be in Langley, but the bids are coming out right now and will be available, I think, in January for the following 2 years. We always do it well in advance. When you're talking about 4,000 participants, you have to plan ahead. So anyway, we really, on behalf of the Senior Games Society, we really thank communities like Oliver and Osoyoos to go ahead and do these things for us, because that's what makes the games go. So thank you very much, and I hope you can put this in a prominent place.
Great. Thank you, and if you happen to spot an opportunity, both communities will jump in on that.
Where do you want me to leave?
Councillor McCorduck?
Yeah. Thank you. I would just like to say that I was part of the BC Winter Games that were held here between Oliver and Osoyoos in 1985. And I recall that we had to clear out some of the classrooms at the school and put in cots for the athletes. And so school was postponed for a couple days. I'm not quite sure how we fixed it up, but we did it, and we did it extremely well in that time. And we had Oliver, Osoyoos, lots and lots of people, local people, helped with that. So we can do it. I'm not sure how many people were there, but that was a long time ago.
Just on a side, actually at 6 o'clock tonight, I'm making the same presentation in Penticton, because they had the games, of course, in 2004. And I think it's next week I'm doing it in Oliver. And so I will mention, and hopefully the same discussion comes up, that maybe we can get together and do it somehow like that. So again, thank you.
Could you tell Penticton that they've got too much going on now that we'll look after it?
That's right. Thanks a lot, gentlemen. Okay, looking at going back to the agenda, Water Matters Correspondence Bylaw, going into business. Business 1, kind of excited about this. A DP application coming forward for 6605 Nighthawk Drive. Mr. Shannon from our planning department, please. Sounds good.
So, good afternoon, Mayor and Council. This is a fairly big report for a development permit and the servicing agreement as well. So I'll try to get through it without taking too much time. In 2005, Council approved a development permit for a high-density residential development on the subject property located at 6605 Nighthawk Drive. However, the development did not proceed and the permit expired in October of 2007. On September 27, 2011, the developer, Mr. Erupdata, submitted a new development permit application for a revised development on the same property. The attached development permit has been prepared for Council's consideration. The following is a list of changes from the previous development to the new development proposal. The density has been reduced from 51 units to 48 units. The number of floors has been reduced from 4 floors to 3 floors. The parkade has been reduced from 2 levels of parking to 1 level of parking. There's no vehicular access to the parkade from Nighthawk Drive, but instead it is accessed from 89th Street below. And the roof has been changed to a flat roof, which includes a parapet integrated with architectural features. The parking requirements of the R7 high-density residential zoning require the developer to provide a total of 84 parking stalls. So there will be 48 parking stalls located in the parkade under the building, along with an additional 36 parking stalls to be accessed from 89th Street in the lower parkade. The landscaping has been revised, and engineered landscape retaining walls will be used to create the ramp up to the parkade at the rear. Nighthawk Drive will be a residential streetscape with no access to the parkade and no garbage facilities. The waste enclosure, which will be accessed from 89th Street, is designed with cement roofing tiles and stucco walls to match the form and character of the main building. In 1977, when the properties were created, the town acquired a 3-meter wide lane right-of-way along the south side of the subject property with the intent of getting a public walkway through to 89th Street at some point in the future. To date, the right-of-way has never been developed. Earlier this year, we asked the developer to consider providing the town with a walkway right-of-way along the north property line, which would have an area of 3,475 square feet in exchange for the existing right-of-way along the south property line, which had an area of approximately 1,780 square feet. To do so, the developer would have been giving up approximately 1,695 square feet of additional land. And in June, the developer advised the town that he would accept an offer of $30,000 for the additional land to create the walkway, providing that we agreed to pay the cost of surveying and registration with land titles, pay the cost of developing the public walkway, including fencing on both sides, allow a change in the landscaping along the north side from trees to smaller shrubs, be responsible for the cost of maintenance and repairs of the public pathway, and confirm that we were aware of the crime prevention through environmental design issues. Which I just point out, that's the reason that they wanted to change the trees to smaller shrubs, because of the crime prevention design guidelines. Makes it easier to see people walking through the walkway. On July the 16th, 2012, Council directed staff to, number 1, include provisions in the servicing agreement stating that the town is agreeable to a $30,000 offset in parkland development cost charges. And 2, the town retains the right to purchase the land for $30,000 at any time. And I've pointed out here that if you look to section 14 of the attached servicing agreement, you will find those 2 caveats. On July the 16th, 2012, Council also approved the construction of a public pathway to a standard designed for those who are above average fitness at a cost of approximately $75,000. That's including the cost of the land. The public pathway will provide pedestrian connectivity from the elementary school and the Sonora Community Center up to the arena, the curling club, the southeast Metal Arc Drive area, and the secondary school. The servicing agreement. The attached servicing agreement has been reviewed and signed by the developer. The developer agrees that prior to the issuance of a development permit, he will format and register the document with land titles. The developer has agreed to construct and install off-site works and services as described in the capital cost estimates that are attached to the servicing drawing prepared by True Consulting. Missed a step there. As described in section 3 of the agreement, the developer will be responsible for 50% of the cost to upgrade Nighthawk Drive and 100% of the cost of off-site servicing upgrades. Securities for on-site landscaping and off-site works and services will be collected prior to the issuance of a building permit based on 125% of the cost estimates. On May the 9th, 2012, the advisory design panel reviewed the development proposal, and they supported the overall form and character of the new building and the associated landscaping. Under implications, the implication for the community is that the development will provide housing and jobs. Under organizational, considerable staff time was required to process the development permit application, prepare the servicing agreement, and complete the public walkway negotiations. Budget implications for the town. The town will be responsible for 50% of the cost of the upgrades to Nighthawk Drive, estimated by True Consulting to be $93,385. The cost of the approved public walkway, including the land, is estimated to be $75,000. And under sustainability, I pointed out that the landscaping of the property has been increased to approximately 50% coverage from the previous development permit. Options. Number 1, that council approves development permit number 1104 and the servicing agreement subject to the terms and conditions described in both of the documents. Number 2, do not approve development permit number 1104 and the servicing agreement. Or 3, request staff to provide further information. Staff recommends option 1, that council approve development permit number 1104, subject to the terms and conditions outlined in the permit, and that prior to the issuance of a development permit, the developer must format and register the servicing agreement on the title of the subject property as a Section 219 covenant. Approve the servicing agreement and direct town signatories to endorse the agreement, and direct administration to take the necessary steps to close the lane right away along the south side of the development and turn it over to the developer. Now, just looking ahead, I'm not going to go through the whole development permit because it's been attached for your viewing, but it's got a number of schedules to it. First of all, there's a schedule A, which is a site plan. It's how the building will be sited on the land. The second schedule is relates to the garbage waste enclosure. It's also shown on the site plan as a graphic on the side, so you get a little bit of a blow up of what the garbage enclosure would look like. There's 2 schedules to show the actual layout of the parking stalls. One shows the schedule of the underground or the at grade parking level, and the Schedule D shows the parking area on the at the lower portion of the property. The colors, they're the Benjamin Moore style color chips are included in schedules created out of those actual colored codes and numbers for the building, which pretty closely match what's in the on the renderings. But of course, whenever you print a rendering and you're showing on a digital format, it's never exact. What else here? These fire flows must comply with the fire writers underwriters guidelines, et cetera, et cetera. So I won't go through that whole permit. The only thing else in here really is there's, prior to the issuance of a building permit, the developer will have to provide a stormwater management plan and a geotechnical report. I point out that we've already got the stormwater management plan. We just haven't completed the review in fine detail from True Engineering, but we would be doing that prior to the issuance of a building permit. The servicing agreement is also attached to the council's package, and I won't go through the whole deal, but there's point out Section 3 points out all of the securities and the amounts that will be collected. Section 14 A and B point out the 2 caveats relating to the pathway, and that's about it. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to take them.
Thanks, Mr. Shannon. I guess I'll open up with a question, and I know I think I have the answer, but I just better make sure that I have it right. So from looking at the elevations, looking at the western elevation, which would be the Nighthawk side of the building, we're looking at 3 floors, roughly walk straight in from the elevation of Nighthawk. I think that's Schedule G.
Exactly.
That's correct.
Okay, and I'm just going back there because in '05, this was a fairly contentious issue, as I remember this going forward. I'm sure Councillor Ryan remembers some of the input that the town had at that time. Thank you, Mr. Shannon. Councillor Rose, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I know you touched on it a little bit, and I'm assuming that you have a pretty basic idea about the stormwater management. And often when you change from a typical roof to a flat roof, it does add another dynamic. Can you maybe just give me a little bit of insight in how we're going to manage stormwater? If it runs down Nighthawk, is it going to be caught there and forced down the hillside? Because it is basically a hillside unit, and I'd be real interested to know what we're going to do with it, or more specifically what they're going to do with their rain stormwater.
I'm not real comfortable speaking at it at this point because I haven't completed my review of it, but I'm pretty certain it's going to be dealt with mostly through storage catch basins.
Okay, so what
but
about,
I can provide you with more detailed information on that if you like.
Yeah, I'd definitely be interested because of the you know, the change in elevation from the top down to the bottom, often those driveways and that access into the parking lot is a good way to evacuate all of the nasty stuff that falls off the bottom of cars and that kind of thing. And I'd be really concerned about that going down, you know, onto our sidewalk and eventually street and perhaps into the lake if that happens, because I don't think that's part of our catching system that returns it to our effluent. I think this is a right into the lake thing.
That's we have it in our subdivision servicing bylaw that they have to catch and treat all the stormwater on their property and provide us with the calculations. So there's quite a bit to that, and which is why that I haven't pushed on making all these calculations and having
I think
it
you
all
answered
set
my
in
question
stone.
already.
Yeah.
Yeah, as long as it's in there and being taken care of. My concern is always the oil and antifreeze ending up in our streets and in our catch basins on our roads, and you know, we all know where that ends up and that kind of thing. So, thanks.
When we're looking, I have a question maybe of the process here. So when we're coming up with development permit, is there opportunity for public input? Or is that was more on the zoning of it, I guess? Is that?
I can answer that.
Thanks, Mr. Cunningham.
Just like old times. It's not normal and it's not a legal requirement to invite public participation in the development permit. And the reason for that is that the zoning has already been given to the property, and there's not very much that the public could say at this time that would be meaningful. It's a very dangerous situation, in fact, to get involved with the public at that point, because obviously some people might have concerns about the fact that that site is zoned for R7 in the first place. But you cannot take back those rights. Those are vested in the property. So the situation at this hand is focusing on the development permit and council's approval of that.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Cunningham. Councillor McCordoff.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. In the budget section, it says that the town will be responsible for 50% of the cost of the upgrades to Nighthawk Drive at $93,000. That seems like, so it's double that. Can you explain exactly what needs to be done on Nighthawk? I know that there's no driveways down from there, so what exactly does that entail?
What I would point out is that if you go to the capital cost estimates, which are attached as part of the servicing agreement,
yes,
it will explain, it breaks down all of the reconstruction of Nighthawk Drive into its many, many components and the actual price for each one of them.
Is that on page 46? Am I on the
It's
correct
Schedule
one?
A of the servicing agreement, so it'd be
Under
somewhere
security
near
rate? No?
somewhere near the back of the servicing agreement.
Starts on page 54.
Oh, yeah. Got page 54. Okay, thank you. I guess my other concern is having been very involved in lining up parades along that street for many years, it concerns me a little bit about whether we can still do that. Do you see any problem in setting this up to us lining up all our parades, especially July 1st? This is the only street in town that we can do it, apparently, when we looked. So
I don't see a problem with it after it's finished. You could run into a problem if it happened to be under construction at the same time.
Okay. Thank you.
I think it would be fine, and there's no vehicle access off of Nighthawk.
Right.
It's all down from 89th, so the people are going to get to see the majority of the parade. The second half, anyway. Councillor Ryan?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On those schedules as well, just going back to the cost sharing, of the various schedules, do those represent the total amounts, and what, how much of that, of the totals on each of those schedules would be the town's portion, and how much would be the developer's portion?
Okay, I think you got it on your screen. I'll see if I can talk you through it. The Schedule A, that'll be the very first capital cost estimate. Okay. Very bottom right-hand corner there's a total there. It's 158,000. That's 50-50 with the town. 50% of that's with the town, 50% of that's with the developer. Okay, now if we move to Schedule A2, the next page, the top half of the page, there's two columns, because you'll notice there it says this is the Nighthawk reconstruction schedule for both the portions, the little portion south of the development on Nighthawk and the little portion just north of it. So there's two totals there. One of them is 35,000 and the other one is 45,000. Again, that's 50% for the town and 50% for the developer. And if you happen to look in the servicing agreement, there's a table in there where those amounts are all totaled. Well, if you totaled all those amounts, you'd get 238,000, and the 50% for the developer is 119,000. That's the Nighthawk Drive reconstruction numbers. And then if you go down to the bottom of that Schedule A2, very right-hand corner, there's a number there, 33,500, and that's all of the other off-site servicing requirements. That's the storm and the sewer and the water. That's 33,500. You total that one with the water service upgrades on the last page on Schedule A3. There's two numbers on the right-hand side, two totals on that side. There's a 43,500 and a 35,000. Mm-hmm. They are 100% in the developer's column.
Those two are on A3 are all the developers.
That's right.
And what did you say about the 33.5 on?
The 33.5 is also part of that. It's added up to them. So the three totals. That's parts C, D, and E of the offsite upgrades and water main extensions. They total $112,000, and then that's going forward with that 100% to the developer. To upgrade all of the water servicing, etc., so that they have the appropriate fire flows for that high-density residential development.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anything else from council? Looking for what the decision is? Are we going to approve this? Councillor Rhodes, please.
Well, I think I'd be prepared to offer or move a resolution based on the wording that's in there. I'm assuming you didn't specify, so you want the wording to kind of follow the three recommendations you have there. And
I think the wording works very well the way it's written. Yeah.
Okay. So the recommended motion there.
Yeah. Rather than reading all of the wording out, I think it's easy to copy from there.
Great. So, Thank you. Is there a seconder for that, please? Councillor McCordoff. Any further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Wow. So any idea whether this would start or go ahead or?
Rumor is they want to build.
Okay. It's a wonderful rumor.
Yep.
Thank you, Mr. Shannon. That was a good report. With as they all are now, they always seem to have some twists and turns in the right of way. And I was, when you were talking, I was focusing on that right of way, but I understand how it works, and yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Yeah. Councillor Ryan, you had a comment?
Yeah, just perhaps a last question. Just for the sake of our viewers, these are all in a Section 219 covenant, and perhaps you could just review what the importance of that covenant is in terms of all of these costs and all of these agreements.
Sure. The Section 219 is a covenant with the registered on title of the property in perpetuity. It runs with the land, so if the developer was to sell that parcel of land, that covenant goes with it. So if anybody comes along and they actually want to develop that parcel of land, they have to use the terms and conditions of that covenant that's going to be signed by both parties. It's already been signed and returned to us by the developer, and if it's signed by the town signatories and returned back to the developer, and they will proceed with registration, and it will be on title for till the development's built.
Good, thank you.
Okay. Thanks again, Mr. Shannon. Next item under business, business 2. We have a street light tender for Dividend Ridge and Spartan Drive. Mr. Cunningham, you are coming back?
I don't think so.
Okay, no, I'm sorry, I see that, right. My error.
You're one, Your Worship.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry. Going back where we were, business 2, the streetlight tender from Dividend Ridge and Spartan Drive, Fuji Court. A report from Director of Financial Services, Mr. Zackel.
Thank you, Mayor Wells. So before council is the streetlight portion of 2 projects. The one, the walkway up to Dividend Ridge, and the second, the Spartan Drive, Fuji Court road reconstruction project. So both of these are in our 5-year financial plan for this year's budget. There were a total of 4 bids that were received, with the lowest bid being Roy's Electric at $26,774.72, which is including a $3,000 contingencies allowance and HST. True Consulting has reviewed the tender packages and has confirmed that Roy's Electric was the lowest bidder. The tender is under budget, and the recommended contractor is Roy's Electric. So the recommendation to council is to award the contract to Roy's Electric.
Thank you. Council, please. Councillor Rhodes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I would like to move option number 1 to award streetlight installation tender to Dividend Ridge and Spartan / Fuji Court to Roy's Electric in the amount of $26,774.72, which includes a $3,000 contingency and 12% HST.
Thank you, and seconded by Councillor Ryan. Discussion, please. Councillor Rhodes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As you're probably aware, I'll never miss any opportunity to talk about the benefits of shopping locally. I'd like to point out that all 4 of the people that bid on it are local businesses, and I have no memory in the last 4 years of that ever happening, and makes me feel really good and very, very happy to move forward with that recommendation and that was presented in that motion.
Thank you. Any further discussion on that? Hearing none, all in favor of awarding the contract? Great to have local suppliers. Wouldn't it be wonderful if we could just do that all the time?
Yes.
Looking at some terms of reference for the Osoyoos Splash Park Committee, they've already have a lot of work done, but we're just looking at how this is going to officially look here. Report from Director of Community Services presented by Mr. Zackel.
Thank you again, Mayor Wells. So before council is a report from Gerald Davis, our Director of Community Services, and this is with respect to the terms of reference for the Osoyoos Splash Park Committee. Staff presented a feasibility report to council on September 17th in relation to the development of a splash park. There were a number of variables that need to be answered in terms of where we go from here. The site, source of water, and budget are a few of the major obstacles that need to be investigated further before we proceed. In order to move forward, staff is proposing a draft terms of reference for the Osoyoos Splash Park Committee. This terms of reference will keep the committee on track and help them bring forward the best possible scenario for council to review and approve. As part of the terms of reference, staff is also requesting council to appoint the current members of the committee as the official committee. Who they had on there was Mike Plante, which was Town Council co-chair, Gerald Davis, Director of Community Services co-chair, Ron Doucette, Director of Operational Services, Sarah Dynison, Program Supervisor, Carol Nesdoli, Operational Services Clerk, Jim King, Osoyoos Royalty, Judy Sloan, Osoyoos Royalty, Kirsty McLean, Community Stakeholder, Leslie Hanson, Community Stakeholder. This committee was formed to assist with the feasibility report and is very keen in continuing to assist the completion of this project. Implications from the community developing the terms of reference will help the community's voice in bringing the splash park to fruition. Bringing another type of attraction for our community will be positive. Organizationally, staff time will be utilized as members of the committee. From a budget perspective, bringing the best possible scenario forward will assist with all aspects of the quality and affordability of the park enhancement. This will be achieved by fundraising and special events. Sustainability, as part of the terms of reference, we will make sure that the type of system utilized meets or exceeds all expectations of our sustainability plan. So the options before council, as presented in this report, for council to adopt the draft terms of reference and appoint the aforementioned members to the Osoyoos Splash Park Committee. Option 2, for council to adopt the draft terms of reference and advertise for the other members to sit on the committee. And option 3, for council not to adopt the draft terms of reference at this time. And Mr. Davis is recommending option 1.
Great, thanks, Mr. Zackel. This must be tongue day. I've been stuttering around at the board table here, and just a bit of a correction on that. Jim King and Judy Sloan from Osoyoos Rotary, as opposed to Osoyoos Royalty.
Oh, he is Mr. King.
Touché.
And I apologize to those two members of the community.
That's fine. Rotary's taken a big part in this. I'm sure they'd like to hear their organization name. And we do have that recommendation for option 1 for council to adopt the draft terms and appoint the aforementioned members to the Osoyoos Splash Park Committee. Councillors' wishes, please. Councillor McCordoff.
Yes, thank you. I would move option 1 for council to adopt the draft terms of reference and appoint the aforementioned members to the Osoyoos Splash Park Committee.
Thank you, and seconded by Councillor Ryan. Any further discussion on that? I guess they've have a lot of work done already, and it's getting to the exciting stage. This will happen. We're looking at this taking place, and so by next July, and I see Councillor Plante wants to put a bid in here. So Councillor Plante, please.
Well, I just wanted to say thank you, Mayor. That I thank Council for putting this through. Again, it just continues to create that momentum. And as you said, this is going to happen. There is a process, and we are working our way through that process. And this is just, again, another step to keep us focused on what we're doing. And we are in that exciting stage, which is getting the community involved, to take ownership as a community in the splash park, continue the fundraising. So all these are the steps to put, we're doing all the right steps, and I just thank you for letting us go through with this part of it. And again, just continues to keep creating momentum, and it's going to happen.
Great, and thanks, Councillor Plante. And I should suggest that there will be some ample time in the future for people to make contributions to this. They're obviously a bit of a way to go on the financial side. Although from the first effort, there was, I believe, $104,000 or $106,000 that the town had committed 3 or 4 years ago, and of course that's coming forward. So when we say this is happening, I think they're closing in on what they're going to need. So that makes it that inevitable portion of it a little more realistic. So thanks, and thanks to that committee once again. Moving on in the agenda, notice of motion, Councillor Rhodes.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, I believe that we have to vote on that last one.
Oh, on the terms of reference? Well, thank you very much. Any further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Thank you, Councillor Rhodes. Any notice of motion, please? No notice of motion. Under reports, looking at some payroll accounts, general, Sun Bowl Arena and payroll accounts. Excuse me. Cash requirements representing balances in the following accounts amount to, in the general account, $378,286.99. In the Sun Bowl account, in the amount of $3,668.35. Payroll accounts in the amount of $63,904.95 to be received. Any discussion on any of those? That will be adopted by consensus. Mr. Romanko is on holidays. There will be no CAO report. Moving into councillors' reports, number 1 would be Councillor McCortoff.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Last week, as everybody probably knows, all of us were at the UBCM, Union of BC Municipalities in Victoria. And it was a lovely week in Victoria. We had terrific weather. All of us were there. We worked long hours. I want you to know that. We had various clinics starting at 7:30 in the morning, and oftentimes it went till dinner time, and fortunately several of the groups like Fortis and CUPE and so on put on a little wine and cheese, which included food, so that was great in the evening. So I'm going to talk about a couple of different ones that I went to. I was quite interested in being there as my first time, and 2 of the ones that I'm going to talk about, which allows the other councillors to give their views on some of the things, both had to do with small communities and health, actually, health and education. So one of the small clinics that I went to was called BC Ideas, and it explores how communities, business, and governments can work together to solve social challenges. And it was quite interesting back and forth about all of the things that could be done in small communities. That was a shorter one. We went on to another one that was fairly a little more in depth, and it was the Small Talk Forum. So one of the things was how to deal with the lack of medical services in small communities. And I think that that we seem to be fairly lucky here, because we're in a lovely place and we don't have the same problems, although we have certainly had problems over the years up and down. So the health budget is 40 to 45% of the provincial budget, which is a lot. So what they were talking about was how, including in medical services and how to deal with things in small towns, including housing, transportation, education, water, and employment. When you're talking about that. So a healthy lifestyle, caring for each other, volunteering, keeping people at home with support. And one director said, we can't train enough doctors, so what we need to do is give more power to health practitioners. And in fact, there has been more power given to that. I've starred this, living with a family member helps keep people at home. So I think we do a lot of things. I kept looking back at some of the things that were happening here. Cassie is one that really helps us. A lot of volunteer activities that we have in our town help to make this a reality. And then in the afternoon there was a cabinet panel, and I went to the one on healthy families. The Minister of Health, Minister of Education, Minister of Seniors, and Minister of Families and Children. And again, it was mentioned that BC needs to rely more on health practitioners than on going to a family doctor. Just a bit of a shift. And BC has the lowest mortality rate for cancer in Canada, which is a real positive thing. Daily activity, healthy diet, playground for kids, and included in that, they suggest having playgrounds for adults. In other words, seniors and adult workout equipment, which of course is something that we have on our agenda and we are working towards. So I felt that was a really positive step, especially for a community that has a high percentage of seniors. And the other thing that was mentioned there was using the restorative justice model, and I know that was in the paper last week, that we're looking for people to sit on that. So I found those it particularly interesting, and I thank the town for the opportunity to go to UBCM, and I'll let the other councillors report on what they particularly liked. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor McCordoff. And just speaking about the flow at the UBCM, we have all the breakout sessions, and really truly council council was very diverse in covering interests and special things that they were interested in as individual councilors. Then we'd meet up and meet with some of the ministers and do that. So it was really interesting. I would almost go, other than lunch or something, a whole day without seeing council members, because we were that diverse and gathering that much different information to share and come back. And when Councilor McCordoff talked about the 7:30 a.m., that's awful early to be at a meeting. To be up there, that means you're up, you had a bite to eat, you had a coffee, showered, and you're down there doing business at 7:30 in the a.m. And we were about 3 blocks from the convention center, so we certainly were putting in our efforts, and it was great to see everybody digging in. There's a cost to attending these, and you're always sort of balancing out the dollar factor and the information factor and that. And I know I talked to both the new councillors as to how they perceived it and then how it actually was. And I know Councillor Plante said, wow, there's a lot of stuff there, and there really is. And people were asking again about that dollar factor, and my reply was the more you put into it, the more you get out of it. And there's just a real wealth of information to bring home to help everybody in their duties of managing the town of Osoyoos. So, Councillor Plante, please.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. I'm going in a little different direction. I'm going to tell you about a date. It was March 20th of 2010. My wife and I, we had the pleasure to announce the birth of our daughter, Hope Alexander Plante. And at that time, there were no complications, and my wife and I were released from hospital, and we went on with our new adventure. About 2 weeks later, after actually being at a lot of the Easter events that were happening in town, we laid down ready for bed, and my wife started to hemorrhage. And why I'm bringing this up is a good friend of mine named Aaron Isfelt in Edmonton started a program. It's the CTV Giving Hope campaign. And it starts today, and it's a blood drive. And this friend of ours had started this in honor of my wife. Those were probably the most difficult days. There were 4 or 5 days there, and I actually almost lost my wife there. And I get a little bit emotional about it. But what it's led to is we're in our 3rd annual one, and it happens in Edmonton. But I'm here to encourage everyone in this month of October to donate blood. And that's what I want to talk about. Some of the numbers, just again, from the Canadian Blood Services, that each blood donation has the potential to improve or save up to 3 lives. And that every 60 seconds, someone in Canada needs blood or a blood product. We have the capability to donate blood every 56 days or 6 times a year. And then one of the other Alberta stats is that just again because of CTV Edmonton running this for us, the Canadian Blood Services need to recruit 12,000 new donors per month to continue to meet the patient needs. And so it's just something that I wanted to bring up. It's always kind of emotional going back through those days, but what it's led to is a good friend of ours in Edmonton starting this drive for my wife and for Hope, and just the need for us to donate. So if you are looking to donate, there is a 1-800 number that comes through the Canadian Blood Services. I think it's 1-888-2-DONATE to find the location nearest you. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that, Councillor Plante. Yeah, very, very moving, very, very touching, very, very personal. Thanks again. And I think from the old days when the blood donor clinics used to come to town and there was banners flying on Main Street and those days, it's moved so far away now that we sometimes sometimes don't appreciate that need. So thank you for bringing that back to the small town. Councillor Ryan, please.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, I too was at the Union of BC Municipalities last week, and the week before was also a very busy one. 2 weeks ago, before we left for UBCM, there was another meeting with about 20 volunteers of the 36 or so that have volunteered to try to bring back and restart the depot, the Red Cross depot here. And so we had a meeting, and after that meeting, unfortunately, because after that meeting we received a letter from Mr. John Ritchie, who had come and spoken to council initially. And I'll just give you the substance of the letter. Basically, he said, for the estimated 50 or so clients in a year who will not be able to easily access the Oliver site, we welcome the opportunity to work with the many volunteers in Osoyoos who have recently stepped forward to develop a transportation system to get people the equipment they need. As we will not be opening the Osoyoos site, we believe that working together to address transportation needs will be the most effective solution that can help ensure the Red Cross can continue to provide equipment that residents of the South Okanagan need to help them live and feel better. So the group, I think, has just learned about this, but I think they're still persisting, and so we'll see. But anyway, that's the latest exchange in this situation. I too went the next week then to the Union of BC Municipalities, and I'm grateful to the people of Osoyoos for this opportunity. As the mayor said, it's not an inexpensive convention to attend, and so I think we all try to maximize the opportunities we have while we're there. And so I went to a number of small forums, and we also saw 4 ministers, or had 4 meetings with ministers, and including the Premier, and I'm sure the Mayor will tell us more about that. But one of the things that I think was a highlight for me was the keynote speech by Anna Maria Tremonti, the CBC host, and she was as charming and as hard-hitting as she is on the air. And her theme was, and the theme of the whole convention was, in conversation, and she was talking about the situations that she encounters on the air and the people she talks to and what she talks to them about, and how she thinks it's so important to try to get at the information behind the headlines. And she also said that she thinks that it's important to, in speaking to politicians, that they be ready to tell why they vote certain ways, why they take a position. And she gave us examples of some of the stonewalling that she encounters when she's talking to elected officials. But in that vein, I thought I would tell you about a few of the resolutions, a few of the many resolutions that were passed, and why I supported them. One of them, the first one, and one that was very widely, I think, reported on, was the decriminalization of marijuana. And we, in fact, had about it was almost a half-day session on this, where a panel of people from medicine and policing and professors and so on talked about all the pros and cons of it. And basically, it was a very short resolution. It just said that that we decriminalize, didn't say legalize, but we decriminalize, and we also investigate ways of controlling and perhaps taxing this particular substance. And I supported that, and it was, one is always conflicted because you see both sides of the story. You see that we can't change our neighbor, and we can't make, it's a federal situation. But there are many young people who are running into the law and who are gaining criminal records. And we had a policeman from the United States, from Washington State, who was telling us about the percentage of people in prisons there who, in fact, are in for drug offenses, often for marijuana. And I think the same is true here in Canada. So we haven't changed anything, of course. We've just made a resolution. But it's an important resolution because I think it's telling our senior levels of government that we need to look at this in a different way. We need to do something. This perhaps is a start by saying let's begin the conversation in a non-judgmental, a non-threatening way. Let's examine all the aspects of it. So anyway, that was background to my thinking. The other one that we passed was not having tanker traffic in the Strait of Georgia and on the coast, and this was very contested as well. And in fact, we had to use our electronic voting, and it turned out that the support for the resolution of not having tankers and for the government to use all means, legislative and administrative, to prevent it, it passed by 51.5% of the delegates voting. So it was very, very close, and yet it was strongly felt, and I think we know that if we have tanker traffic, we will have an accident. I mean, that's a foregone conclusion. So it's not when, or not if, rather, it's when. So anyway, that was one that I supported, and I would continue to support it. And the other was a homegrown resolution from the Regional District of Okanagan-Similkameen, and it was on genetically engineered free zone, trying to ask the government not to allow to not to import, not to export, not to allow to be grown materials, plant materials that have genetically modified organisms in them. And it seemed to me that because there is such a difficult problem with these materials, when they are planted in one field, they end up in the next field and miles away. That it was important because we have tried here in the Okanagan-Similkameen to have an organic. We're moving in the organic way. I know we still use a lot of pesticides and that sort of thing, but we do have organic farmers, and I think it's important to protect them and not to allow this genetically modified organisms to be prevalent in our area. So anyway, those are three of the many resolutions we talked about, and that was why I supported them.
Great. Thanks, Councillor Ryan, for putting that personal touch on it. A lot of times people just say, well, it passed, and that was that. And so, yeah, that brings it out and maybe help people understand a bit. Thank you. Councillor Rhodes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So, like everybody else, I attended UBCM, and I have some things that I'd like to comment on about some of the resolutions that were passed. But before doing that, I think that one of the things that I've always struggled with this conference every year is the cost and benefit of what it costs our community and the benefits that we actually get out of it. And I've always, I'll freely admit, been pretty cynical and a little skeptical about it in the past. But I did attend an economic development kind of a workshop information gathering thing, and I went into it with my normal cynical and that type of attitude, and I sat down in the chair, and Councillor Ryan was there, and we kind of stood around, and I know he's always enthusiastic about it, but I was not. And appeared in front of us down on the stage was a fellow from Powell River in the northern part of the Sunshine Coast who didn't alter my life, but certainly changed a lot of the things that I think about economic development. Long story short, was hired by the community originally to move in and make suggestions and help them alter their business community so that economic development could be a bigger and better thing for them in their community. And right away I started thinking, well, we kind of got that problem in our community. We've struck a group here to work towards that, and they talk for hours, and sometimes you don't hear it all, but you pull a few things out of there that I felt that were very, very important. And the one statistic that I got was their business retention program that they have in this community, and how it is that one aspect of it has altered the whole economic climate of that town. And his statement started off was that 80% of all hirings of of people in communities is directly related to local business that are there and established already. And you go, well, gee, that doesn't make any sense. You know, what if a big corporation came in and hired 500 people? Well, the harsh reality in our provinces is that never happens. And, you know, now I'm motivated again to get back on track with this. You know, business retention is so important in our community. And business retention has two people involved. It has your community, that would be us as councillors, and our staff and the business owners in this community. And how you bond together and how you get together will determine your success an awful lot. So I wanted to pass that on. I went to lots of other workshops, but this is the one that got me the best. On a lighter note, I wanted to say as well, to echo Councillor Ryan again, I did support the decriminalization of marijuana. Since we went through that session, I've had 22 emails requesting, how did you vote on it? And every one of them were ominous, so I had to be very careful about my response, you know, because there's a perception that if you support it, that you're in favor with the criminal activity. But very importantly, it was the decriminalization of it and not the legalization of it. I think there's a propensity to believe that, you know, all of the nasty stuff that goes on with the drug trade is not going to be altered very much, but I've always felt that, you know, everybody goes through an experimentation part of their life, and when you're 15 years old and you smoke a joint and you got that record for the rest of your life, I've always felt that that's wrong, and this will certainly help us out of that an awful lot. Not law of the land, let everybody be clear on that. This is only a resolution and a recommendation to our province. They have to take it and move it forward and make it legislation, but I'm really, really in support of it. The head RCMP guy in the province of British Columbia said that they have not arrested an individual in our province for 7 years on the possession of marijuana. So that was the other fact that I got out of that. On a lighter note, everybody be really, really happy to hear that probably fairly soon, this will be fast-tracked through our legislative assembly, I'm sure, recommended that we no longer can sell bunnies anymore unless they are sterilized. You know, and you go, what the heck are all these 1,500 people spending all this time on this resolution? But you know, it's the big thing about the UBCM. If you live around the University of Victoria, if you live almost anywhere in the city of Nanaimo, particularly around the airport, and I believe they have a profound problem in the city of Kelowna, and when you gather that information, when those bunnies are running around, you don't care about them anymore. They are a nuisance, a rodent, and that's why these things come. And I know it sounds kind of funny and it sounds ridiculous, but really, when it impacts your community, it is important, and I did support that right down to the bitter end. It was overwhelming, the response. I don't think there was one person that voted against the resolution, and hopefully that'll bring somewhat of a cure for, you know, for that particular problem. So that's my report for today.
Great. Thanks, thanks, Councillor Rhodes. Yeah, it's a very, very busy time. Started out on the Monday, and it was the mayor's caucus. I think that's going to go somewhere. We managed to pull together, there was 143 mayors that attended the caucus, and we managed to pull together and actually come out with an infrastructure statement that is just our number one item is looking for proper funding, both from the federal government and the provincial government on that. So far it's third, and we want to push forward the infrastructure, and that's the spending that the country needs, and it has a potential to get some of the economic drive going that we're looking for, and to have those mayors there and come forward and get it all worked through. It was a one-day session, and it was very interesting, very well received, and I'm not a real person that's big on bureaucracy. I'd rather fight against those sort of layers and those levels out there, but I'm still supporting this one. We've had 2 meetings now, one in Penticton and one at the UBCM, and I believe there will be one coming in Prince George. So that was really worthwhile. Just on some of the ministers that we met, I believe there were 6 or 7 that council met with. Maybe I might have met with 1 or more, but that council didn't. But we certainly met with the Resort Municipality Initiative with Minister Pat Bell. Very, very important to this town. We sort of knew before we got there. We had requested that they look at a different way of counting the eligible number of units that we have, and some of our operators that run motels in Osoyoos, they collect the 2% hotel room tax, but we don't get to count their rooms in our grand total. And there's probably $130,000 sitting there. So Minister Bell said, yep, they realized that it was not a fair process. Didn't quite have the fix for it yet, but certainly we're willing to address it. With all the mayors across southern BC, from the Alberta border to Hope, British Columbia, we had a meeting with the Highway 3 Coalition. We've really been pushing on that. Great feedback from the ministry folks. Really happy that we meet and we actually have a priority. And rather than having 50 communities and 50 priorities, how the heck are they going to address that? And our number 1 priority is the whole Princeton Highway, and it's the Princeton side of the whole Princeton Highway. And they have let a contract for one of the first new 4-lane passing lanes. And this is probably how that highway will get built in reality. I believe it's 2.5 or 3 kilometers in the Friday Creek area that they are going to let, and that'll actually be being, they'll do some of the preliminary work this fall, and then the majority next year. And if we would have been getting small snippets 20 years ago, we'd have a 4-lane road all the way through there. But they do understand it, and we'll keep working. And this is basically all the communities, Castlegar Trail, all the way through. So that was really good. Met with Minister Shirley Bond on transportation issues here. We certainly have to do something with the bridge. Whether we ever get it really developed the way it should be into a 3-lane or 4-lane, I don't know if that's going to happen. The causeway approaches would probably bankrupt the town of Osoyoos if we had to do the causeways on that. But there's a safety issue on that whole north side of the bridge for pedestrians, and you're walking there and kids on long boards and bikes and all that sort of stuff. So I know they're going to address that. And then we have the stormwater issue with it coming off of Main Street. So we really flagged that as a big item for the people living down on 85th and 74th and 72nd and all that low-lying area down there. And if we can get some of that impervious surface on Main Street and the rooftops, we can start addressing that and steering it away and diverting it, getting it into the ground before it collects down there. That would be a positive, and I think they were very interested in hearing that. We had a meeting with Minister of the Environment Terry Lake, in which we put forward our position on the park, and that's always interesting. Because there's fairly strong pro and con on that, but we took forward our position that when First Nations finished their feasibility study, and there's 4 bands doing that feasibility study, and I believe they were hoping to get that out in October, November. If we can get that, we were just refreshing the town of Osoyoos' position on that. Again, met with Mary Polak, who was the Minister of Transportation, met with Bill Bennett, and we met with Christy Clark, and that was interesting. That's where we got some of the feedback on the correction center. I made a pitch that's sort of maybe started with me, but I think I've sold counsel on it, that provincial government should really start decentralizing, and they should be moving some of those Victoria jobs to smaller towns in British Columbia where they can really support schools and hospitals. If there was a ministry moved into here or Grand Forks and you had 5 or 10 ministry jobs out of there from transportation or from the environment, what that would mean to these small communities where you don't have to go with your cap in hand asking for a handout for your hospital or your schools. If you could be able to have those people working here, and why wouldn't they work here? Why wouldn't they work in Grand Forks? You know, they brought out that municipal auditor general, and that was just this spring, and that was about 22 jobs they were opening at. Now, had they built that somewhere in the interior, that would have been absolutely fantastic. But where did they open it at? They built it in Surrey. Well, it doesn't really help a lot of people in Surrey. I mean, there's going to be 20 jobs there. I appreciate that. But the impact it would have on rural British Columbia is absolutely incredible. So we made that pitch. I don't know if it was that well received, but it's only the first time I made it. So if we can remain tenacious and keep at that, and other people pick up some of that, you know, maybe there's some light there. Ben Stewart was at some of our meetings. MLA John Slater represented us very well. When we go in to meet the ministers, either him or his assistant Diana were there to be with us. You don't get a lot of time, but they're there with their staff. They take notes. They care. Hopefully some of this comes through. And I think our experience with all this in the past is it does come forward. So hopefully that this helps move it forward. The conference was good. Adrian Dix presented. He presented for probably 35 minutes, I believe. He spoke 35 minutes with not a note, which that was impressive in itself. Premier Christy Clark probably spoke for 55 minutes. She was well received. Both politicians were very well received. All the little breakout sessions that I attended, a couple of them were maybe there was one that I thought was a bit of a dud, but that may have just been me too. So all in all, it was good. And it's the networking. It's the networking that when a Councillor Plante runs into somebody and they hook and they talk about something that's happening in both communities, or they talk about something that they're interested in, and then down the road that comes up, and there can be a cost saving there where you know somebody who has that information, where the town of Osoyoos doesn't have to reinvent the wheel because the town of Coldstream just went through it, or Courtney went through it, or somewhere in the north went through it. And it's those contacts that sometimes can save us a lot of frustration, and sometimes can keep us out of a lot of trouble of going down the wrong road. So all in all, very valuable, and that's the end of my report. So thank you very much, and motion to adjourn. Would Councillor Plante, Councillor McCordoff, all in favor? We're adjourned. Have a great afternoon. Looks like the sun came back out for a little bit, and we're going to stay with the sunshine.